Welcome to Stone and Signal. I'm Lawrence Nault. Today, I want to talk to you about stories. Not just the ones we read or write, but the ones that hold something. The ones that carry land and loss and longing in their bones. The kind of stories that grow like roots through us and remind us who we are, even when everything else feels like it's shifting beneath our feet. Stories are how I've always made sense of the world, especially in times of collapse. When the ground feels uncertain, politically, ecologically, emotionally, I return to stories. I write them, I read them, and sometimes I sit quietly and let them find me. Facts can tell us what's happening to the planet and the world around us. But stories go deeper than that. Stories help us feel it. There are studies and statistics about climate change, biodiversity collapse, and pollution. The graphs are stark. The numbers, terrifying. We know the science, if we want to know it. But even then, the science isn't always easy to hold. It changes as new discoveries are made. It asks us to understand probabilities, uncertainties, and evolving models. It demands a kind of precision that can feel distant, even disorienting. But what moves people, what stays with them, is often a character, a moment, an image, a single line of dialogue, a breath held between hope and grief. Storytelling is one of the oldest forms of human understanding. Before there were maps, there were myths. Before data, there were tales passed from voice to voice. Stories carried knowledge, they carried warnings, they carried dreams, and they still do. That's why fiction matters. That's why poetry matters. They aren't just escapism. They aren't just respite from a busy world. They're emotional knowledge. They're how we process what facts alone can't hold. Stories let us wrap grief in language. They let us speak of longing without always naming it. They allow us to imagine what could be while still honoring what's already been lost. There's a quote of mine that's circulated for almost 20 years. It's simple, but I still believe it. The point of a story can penetrate deeper than the point of a bullet. That line came from a place of deep conviction. At the time, I was working on a novel that wrestled with political violence and the power of narrative. And I keep seeing how story could cut through the noise. How it could open something in people, not through argument, but through empathy. And that hasn't changed. In many ways, it's only become more important. Because now, the noise is everywhere. Urgency is relentless. And sometimes, the hardest thing to do is feel something all the way through without shutting down. Stories can hold space for that feeling. They let us linger in complexities. They let us sit with characters who are flawed and afraid and still trying. They remind us that we're not alone in our ache or our hope. I think that's part of what Stone and Signal is about too. Not just stories for the sake of telling them, but stories that carry something. Stories shaped like offerings. Stories that don't chase attention, but wait for the listener who needs them. So if the world feels too loud to understand right now, if facts feel like too much or not enough, maybe what you need isn't more information. Maybe it's a story. One that doesn't demand you believe anything. One that just lets you feel your way forward for a little while. That's what this space is for. And that's why I keep telling stories. In my own writing, I've tried to create stories that carry the weight of the world, but still leave space for light. In Rephlexions, the world is quietly infiltrated by an AI system designed by a single organization. On the surface, everything seems seamless, but beneath it, control is tightening. Yet even in that world, there's space. In nature, in analog art, in the resistance that begins not with violence, but with imagination. In Inversion, the Earth is transformed by a climate shift no one saw coming. Volcanoes erupt, ice swallows the planet, and ancient worlds begin to surface. But even there, within the upheaval, there's space. For family, for quiet, for love. In my Draconim series, I follow a group of teens bonded to ancient dragons, not through magic, but through shared purpose. Each teen is connected to an environmental crisis, air pollution, water contamination, forest fires, habitat loss. They aren't superheroes. They're just young people who care too much to stay quiet, and who find each other, slowly, across distance and difference. Their dragons are old, not mystical, not all-powerful, but wise, rooted. The bond is emotional, spiritual, intergenerational, a passing of the torch. There's a moment in the third book of the Draconim series, Fingerprints in the Water, where Kai, the teen connected to the ocean, watches his girlfriend, Amy, carve a piece of driftwood. She shapes it into a version of Turtle Island surrounded by dragons and ocean creatures. It's not just art, it's memory, it's protest. It's prayer. It holds grief and hope and loss. That scene came out of a real ache. I just read a news article about whales washing up with stomachs full of garbage. I'd been listening to youth climate speakers speak with more courage than most politicians. And I wanted readers to feel that, not through statistics, but through story. I remember writing that book after reading about microplastics being found in human blood and brain tissue. I felt sick, sinking pressure in my chest, the kind you don't have words for, but I had characters. I had Amy's hands carving the driftwood. I had Kai standing on the shoreline, watching waves that no longer seemed innocent. Fiction let me speak what I couldn't explain, what might not be heard if it wasn't told in a story. And I've learned that when I write from that place, not from a plan, but from that ache, readers feel it too. There are days I wonder why I keep writing. The world feels like it's unraveling. The systems we once trusted, governments, institutions, technologies, are showing their cracks. The climate is no longer whispering in subtle signs. It's shouting, flooding, burning, shaking us awake in the middle of the night. And still, we scroll. My words often feel lost in an abyss of thought and commentary, swallowed by the churn of constant content. The speed of the world makes it hard to be heard unless you shout or entertain, and I've never been good at either. In an ocean of books and podcasts and voices, mine feel like the strange, luminous creatures of the deep, rarely seen, surfacing only when caught by accident in a trawler's net, or glimpsed by the lights of a passing submersible. Down there, I believe they shine, quietly, patiently. But in a culture built on speed and visibility, few dive that deep. And yet I still return to the blank page, to the mic, to the story that hasn't yet taken shape, but insists on being told. Not because I think it'll go viral. Not because I believe it'll change the world overnight. But because some things need to be said anyway. Because stories aren't just for now. They're for what comes next. They're messages in bottles, signals sent forward, shelters for truths we're not yet ready to face. A story can land in someone's life years after it was written, quietly, without ceremony, and still move something, still open a door, still carry a light into a dark room. I write because I still believe we can change, that we must change, that young people can lead us, that grief, when given form, can become action. And I know I'm not alone. There are so many writers and artists and creators doing this work quietly, without platform or spotlight, planting seeds in their stories, trusting they will grow in unseen places. You might never know the names of some of them. You might never see their work shelved in a store, but their words matter. Sometimes one sentence is all it takes. One line that stays with a reader for years. One imagined world that helps someone survive this one. Books change people, and people slowly change the world. Even now, especially now. So I keep writing. Not because I always know how, or feel brave enough, or think it's working, but because I've seen what happens when a story meets someone exactly where they are, and helps them keep going just a little longer. That's enough. That's everything. In the life of Phi, I did something different. I gave the story another voice, an observer, not a character, not a narrator, but something older, something quieter, something elemental. Water. The story is set in a near future world where AI, designed to heal the environment, has been released because humanity could not change course on its own. Our species kept marching down the road of environmental manipulation and destruction, even as the signs grew impossible to ignore. And in this world, the biases of our societies, so often buried in data, in power, in policy, are made visible through the lens of the AI itself. What it protects, what it sacrifices, who it deems essential, who it does not. Religion, too, has shifted. In many places, it no longer guides belief, it governs it. It becomes a tool of control, not a vessel of faith. And through it all, there's water. Water, who has no side. Water, who is here long before us and will be here long after. Water, who remembers everything and judges nothing. Water, who observes, not with detachment, but with permanence. In the life of Phi, water speaks at the beginning of every chapter. Its voice takes the form of poetry, a rhythm that flows beside the narrative, reminding us that while humans are busy trying to control everything, something vaster has always been watching. I'd like to take a moment now to listen to that voice, to the voice of water. I invite you to listen with me. I am the first memory of Earth, born in the violent birth of worlds, when cosmic dust danced with stellar fire, and gravity drew me from the void. I have been ocean, cloud, and ice, flowed through the veins of dinosaurs, frosted the wings of ancient dragonflies, and nestled in the wombs of early mammals. I remember when I was mountain snow, and when I was morning dew on the first flower. I've been tears of joy and sorrow, blood in warriors, milk in mothers. You look at rivers and see separation. This bank, that bank, here and there. But beneath the surface, I am one flow, moving, merging, always whole. I've been male sweat and female tears, coursed through bodies of all designs, been part of those who fit no mold, and those who transformed like me. In deserts, I am precious gold. In floods, I am feared destruction. In life, I am eternal change, shifting forms, but never essence. I have flowed through the hearts that love differently, through minds that think in varied hues, through bodies shaped by nature's artistry. Each vessel's unique, yet each containing me. You see the surface tension that divides, the ripples that make patterns change. But I have been every kind of water that has ever been or will be. I have tasted every difference, moved through every form of life, and let me share this ancient truth. It is the mixing that makes us strong. Like tributaries joining the sea, like rain returning to the source, we are all the same water, flowing in different streams. Remember me, for I remember all. Every shape that held my essence, every form that gave me purpose, every difference that made me whole. Let the voice of water sit with you. if it speaks. Or if it simply flows past, that's okay too. It will be here, watching, listening, waiting, long after we're gone. If this resonated with you, stay. Listen to it again. Share it with a friend. Come back again when you're ready. If you'd like to support this work, the best way is through my books, available wherever you buy yours. They're how I fund the quiet time it takes to make something like this. My essays and poems you can find on my blog at lawrencenault.me. Just click on journal. Transcripts and reflections are live on my blog. Thank you for listening. Until next time, may your signal find the stones that hold it.